I have two questions based on what you said. Would you say that these individuals that resort to suicide are empathic? And secondly, would you refer to their experience as PTSD?
Well, we're all empathic, because by the mere fact that we are spirit, we are empathic. Post-traumatic distress is almost unfortunately part of the human experience, but more so part of the Black experience.
Post traumatic slavery disorder?
Absolutely. um, Absolutely. And when we, it's, one of the things when you have an argument and your child see you and your significant other having an argument, they become stressful. Mom, dad, or whoever is really having a really tough fight, arguments, yelling, screaming, whatever the case may be, and in some instance, physical. And this young child is watching this. Well, they don't have to be yelled at, and they can be in their room, but their stomach is turning and tightening.
Let me tell you, you hitting home with this one, okay? Because I remember one time my son had to be about maybe 2 years old, and I got into an argument with my ex-husband. My ex-husband was holding him in his arm, and we just raised our voices. When I looked at my son's face, the look in his eyes, and when I tell you he was shaking like that, like literally his whole body, he was just like this. I just stopped in my tracks. I didn't say another word. And I was like, we will never argue like that in front of him again. You thinking it's just an exchange and you're being loud. But when I saw his reaction, I realized we can't do that. That cannot happen in front of him. And it was never anything physical, but just us talking to each other like that affected him so profoundly physically. He didn't say a word. I guess he didn't have the words to say anything at that age, you know but I was like, this can't happen, because we can't have him thinking that this is how people are supposed to conduct themselves in relationships, or that he should ever have to have that feeling indirectly from something that's happening in his environment. And I don't think parents take that into consideration. A lot of times they feel like, well, you're a child, stay out of it, it's between the adults. But you can't, because it's in their environment, and that environmental factor affects them profoundly.
Right. And you're right, because it's a difference between articulation and sensation. They may not be able to articulate how they're feeling, but they have heightened sensibilities.
Mhm.
And because they cannot articulate, their sensibilities are even more in tune, um,
That's
more
interesting.
connected than ours.
Yeah.
They're looking at your facial expression, and from their way of analyzing their environment, they know if they're safe or if they're not. They know if they have trust or mistrust, and they don't have to say anything, but they sense it immensely. And just like anything else, their body, releases the biochemicals to, the adrenaline, and they themselves are being put into fight or flight. So it's the stress hormones, the cortisols that's released, um, is dangerous across the board if we don't have a way to get it expressed. So my point in all of that is that when they see that, because we all argue as adults with our significant other, and we do all have challenges, but when they can also see the makeup in regards to the resolution, then they say, okay, so mom and dad, have these challenges, and they argue, and they fight with each other. They're just raising their voice, but then on the next minute, babe, I'm sorry, that was wrong. I didn't consider your feelings in regards to that. I was feeling this particular way, and I didn't manage that and handle that correctly, and I'm expressing, that I was hurt, and it's okay for a man to be hurt, and I'm telling you I was hurt in what you said or what you did and so forth. And but you know what? And then your partner comes back and said, "Yeah," once they are, not that it's any of their business per se, and it's not that you need to do that 100% in front of them, but when they can see those type of resolution taking place, it creates the homeostasis. It brings them back to balance. The parasympathetic kicks in, the body gets calmed down, and so on and so forth. So it's not that we're not going to have stressors. Is not that the body is not going to have challenges in our environment. It's not going to put us in really tumultuous situations and dangerous situations, because we came from a hostile environment, and because of that hostile environment, we were given the means to survive. And we would not be here if our ancestors, did not learn how to fight and defeat the saber-toothed tiger. And we wouldn't be here if we didn't know how to survive the middle passage, and to get past slavery. So we develop all these defense mechanisms, and it speaks to our strength. Um, but but also it also changed our biological code as well, and it codified our reality to perceive things a particular way,
Yes.
and and the and the remnants of how we see ourself in our environment, in our mainstream society, is an indication in our belief in regards to upward mobility, our ability to be in functional relationships, our ability to achieve economical stability. And that's kind of more so the core of it. It is the challenges that we face in regards to our environment on a day-to-day basis, but it's our belief in our ability to overcome those challenges. And 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 that's where um young people, old, middle age, or old people, you know reach a point where some of them take their lives.
I have one final question for you, and then of course I want to give the good news after I ask my final question. Um, I had to grab my notes because I wanted to make sure I actually made notes. I wanted to make sure I remembered everything, and I did touch on everything. My only thing I wanted to ask was, um, would you say that when these young people are considering suicide, that this is a demonic spirit, or would you say that this is the individual in normal state doing this?
Well, let's define demonic spirit. Um, First of all, and it's a bit of a tricky um, word in a little bit. Uh, Demonic, demon. The notion that is something outside of divinity, something that can take hold of us and possess us, and in a sense we have no ability to fight it and to defeat it. And there's negative energy out there. There's no doubt. There's negative energy out there, but there is a more profound benevolent energy that dominates all sources, and it depends on where you put your your thoughts and your energy in regards to cultivate. Uh, the possession of a demonic spirit taking possession of you could be your belief system, your strong belief that this is not me, this is outside of me, This is someone, that's forcing me or allowing me to to do something. And all that may be, but my position is the active participant of the individual has the more dominant play in the co-creation of their reality. It does not negate the fact that from the collective consciousness, there are negative things that happens to good people every single day. But as those negative things happen to us, we have to be insightful to look back to yesterday, last month, 6 months ago, and a year, and see how we manifest certain type of thoughts, words, and actions in the co-creation of the ripple effect that's now come to shore. Yes, there's negative energy, and the negative energy can come from a loving parent um, who see you looking like your dad, and the dad now being not being in the home, and and mom having a very negative emotion about the dad in regards to what he did and how he left and how he portrayed the family and so on and so forth. And now you coming of age, you're 4 and you're 5 and you're 6, and you're starting to look like him, you're starting to walk like him, your gestures, and you spill the milk. And her, or, her her position is like, look at you, spilling the milk. You're just like your dad. You look like him, you talk like him. You ain't shit. He wasn't shit, you ain't shit. And that's demonic. Now that seeps into the neurological pathway, and now there's an image that becomes represented within that neurological network. An image about your dad, image about black men, image about yourself being a black man and looking like your dad. So now you ain't shit. Now that's 5. Now at 8, something else happens. You look even more like him. You walk in your gestures. Again, you ain't shit. Now I love you, but I'm dealing with my own demons in regards to this separation, this betrayal, this dishonor, whatever, the shame, whatever I'm feeling, and I'm placing that on you.
Mm-hmm.
So now you're enculturating that into who you believe yourself to be. Now you're still young, but now you have a neurological network, a perception about yourself, and
Yeah.
now you're coming into maturity. Now you're going at 12. Now you're going at 13. You're even starting to express more individuality, which might go against the home, mom, and so. But in the back of your mind, well, shit, I ain't shit anyways. If that's your now, you turned into a very good looking young man. um, the young girls are paying attention to you. Your teachers notice that you're pretty bright. You have a way with the word, and you have a way with mathematics and so forth. But in the back of your mind, your neurological network, at 4 and at 5 and at 7 and at 8 and at 10 and at 12, when this significant person in your life who you knew love you and you love her, but you had these moments when this demonic spirit took place and contaminated your belief
Mm-hmm.
about self, and then told you and it who they believe you to be.
And we know that's true. We know
And
that's true because I worked with so many single women in social services and doing outpatient therapy. And this, when I tell you, I can't tell you how many times I had this conversation. I used to say to some of these women, they would tell me clearly how they didn't get along with other women, uh, how much they hated men, right? But they were raising little boys. And I'm like, okay, that's just a bad combination altogether. Because if you hate other women, you can't even seek guidance from elders that might be able to assist you with your problem. And if you hate men, what are you teaching your son? Because you can't say you love him, but you hate men because he's going to be a man. So obviously, some of that is going to, filter down to him. How do you do that? And they just struggled so much with the relationships that they had. They couldn't see through that to see how it might be affecting how they're raising their sons. And so for me, it was always very clear that whether I was with my ex-husband or not, his son would be in his life, because I believe young males need an adult male. And if the mentorship wasn't there, I went out and sought the mentorship. Me taking him to Africa, I had people lined up to speak to him, because I'm clear that as a woman, there's just certain things you cannot give a male child. I don't care how masculine you think you are. I don't care if you playing mommy and daddy. I never thought I was playing daddy. I played my role as a mother, and that was it. But when I was on the continent, and this goes specifically to what you said, I met a young fisherman. And when I met him, he just walked up to me and started talking to me. And I asked him, could I interview him? He said, well, I'll talk to you, but I can't go on camera. And I'm like, well, you got the cops after you? Like, what's going on? And he's like, no, I don't go on camera because I'm ugly. And I was like, whoa, like, why would you say that? And he said, my mom told me that. My mother parted from my father when I was young, and exactly what you said, she had told him from the time she had him how ugly he was, how unattractive he was. And I just wanted to hug him, which I eventually did, because I was like, what mother would tell her child that he's ugly? Even if you thought he was unattractive, you don't say that to your children. You just don't. You find some beauty in something about them. So when I spoke to him, I made a point to tell him, like, my son looks like you. He's dark. He has hair like you. He got lips like you. I was like, and I tell him every day from when he's small how handsome he is and what a king he is. So I can't believe that your mother would say something to you like that. And he was so tickled that he agreed to take a picture with me, but he made me promise not to put it on YouTube. So I said, okay. So we took a picture. He kept it in his phone, and I hugged him when I walked away. But it also made me think about, he felt like it was okay for him to be a fisherman. And if he died on the ocean, that would be fine, because the ocean was really the only place that accepted him. So if he lost his life, it wouldn't be a loss to anyone. And it really touched me that he thought that way. And he even said to me, like, I think it was meant for you to come and talk to me today. So, my prayer for him, obviously, is that he would be able to come back and forth safely from the ocean, and eventually have a great life, and be able to give his children the love that he didn't get. But we know that it affects people, and we witness it daily, and we don't even realize that we're witnessing it, you know?
So, in answer to your question,
Hmm.
is that what's the mnemonic spirit there?
Hmm.
Is it something that is so metaphysical and separate to us, that from another dimension, that really comes and enter us, and then make us possessed and do things that we normally wouldn't do? Or is it an aspect of our psyche, um, and our separation from grace? Because to me,
Mm.
a sin is that which is separated from the divine. So so if I am, telling my child basically that you're ugly and you're worthless, and then I'm ingraining that from the formative years, because we're having a tumultuous time, an argument. He's demonstrating his little child mischievous behavior, that and it's ticking me off, and it just comes out. It just comes out, but it's coming out on a regular. So it's telling me there's some core issues there in regards to his dad. There's some core issues there, and those spirit, yeah, they're demonic. Those
Wow.
those beliefs are demonic, because it's separated from the divine, and it doesn't lead the person to their ultimate purpose, which is to expand universal consciousness in the void of love.
Yeah.
So so now the child gets to a point where they're confronted with an opportunity to move past their current situation, because maybe they're about to take a major exam to move on to the next level in their education. Maybe they're faced with an opportunity to where their mind, body, and spirit have to come together to take on a particular challenge. And when these these opportunities, allows you to define yourself and say who you really are. Your core belief kicks in. Your self sabotaging ways, they kick in, and all of those things are the demonic, you know, opportunities that present themselves to separate you from your greatness. And at that time, to challenge you in regards to your, are you worthy? Maybe you shouldn't be here. You're never going to amount to anything, because you know what, you're black and you're ugly. You know that you ain't shit. Your dad wasn't. He's locked up and you're heading the same place. You out there hanging out with these guys. It's all of those words are demonic. you know and but it also, from a young child's point of view, it's coming from a significant person that feeds them, clothes them, and at certain moments say, I love you. Uh, so this contradiction, you know this battle is constantly going on in the psyche of this young person. um, and then now you're confronted with some sadness. Someone breaks up with you. You go back to that core play. Well, it's because I'm ugly. The teacher says, you're actually pretty good if you put a little bit of effort into A, B, C, and D. I can see where you can get yourself a scholarship. Your core belief is like, I ain't shit. So how am I going to really, pass that entrance exam and really meet the grade? And what he's talking is a whole bunch of malarkey. I don't really believe it, because my core belief is that I'm 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 worthless. Those are the energies and the spirit that we put on each other. We can call it demonic, but in a sense, we put it on each other. And sometimes it comes from the people that we love and love us. And sometimes they will tell you that they didn't mean anything by it. They weren't even thinking. It was just an automatic response. It comes too often, and it comes at the time when you really need to tell the person, look, I'm not happy about you right now. Let's sit down and talk about what's going on. And you're doing this too much, and I'm getting upset, and I'm lashing out at you, and I'm saying things I shouldn't say, and da 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 da. You have to catch yourself.
Right.
You have to catch yourself, because it has strong influences.
It definitely does. This was so powerful. I really hope that, folks who need to see this will watch it. I hope that anyone that is contemplating suicide knows that they can get help, that help is there. And I just want to say what a blessing it is to have you on, coming from a Pan-African holistic approach. You just don't find a lot of doctors like that. And the fact that you're an African male is a bonus for me. So we have to add that on. But I think the best part of all of this, and this is the amazing surprise for everyone, is that you are going to be having your own channel, right? Your own podcast.
Right.
And so if people are looking for ways to address mental health, or maybe tools that they can utilize, they'll be able to come and listen to your podcast, and you'll be able to assist them through that process with the information you're presenting.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
So Dr. Biko Sankofa will have his own podcast. I'll be putting that information down below. So just check the box below and you'll see it in the description. And I think we're going to wrap up with that.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for joining us. And we hope to see you back. The platform's open to you anytime you want to come on.
Thank you. Thank you for the invitation.
Welcome.